Hey guys, welcome to another weekly focus. I hope you had a great week. There's been lots of great opportunities in the market this week. So I'm going to show you guys two positions I had this week. One was a loser and the other one is running, I think, at about 5% already. So let's look at this right here. So coming into this week, perfect, right here on the 8th. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and I'll just show you guys. So we had an impulsive move to the downside. We had a correction. I had an entry, stop loss right here. The intention was just to take out these highs right here. So with the initial entry or the initial trade idea, this was a -1 because price took me out, still respecting this area. So I had a -1 right there. So if you look at it, I got stopped out -1. I reanalyzed the pair and everything, and I got in again with the same setup thing. As an impulse was a correction, got stopped out here, got in here, stop loss at this area. And looking at the target with this one, my intentions was to see prices come into this area. Now when you look at what's happening on the DXY, it might make this a little bit difficult for prices to rise the way I was looking at it, but we've taken out this area already. Initial entry -1, reattempted the buys at this point, and I'm up almost 5% already on this move. So give or take, you're looking at, let's say, plus 4% from this week's trade setup. And I mentioned this already during the market focus. So that's it for this week. -1 initial entry, plus 5 during the second entry thing. All right guys, so that's it for the trade recap. Let's do the DXY and the other pairs, and I'll show you guys what we're looking at for next week. All right guys, so here's the DXY on the monthly time frame, and I spoke about this structure last week. So if you look at this, there's no need for us going all the way to, let's say, you know what, let's do it. So if you reduce this, you look at the price action we're playing with. So it's been an impulse, it's been a correction, it's been an impulse, it's been a correction. So at the time, I was looking at this last week. So we had price trading below this trend line. So you had this trend line moving to the upside. So at the time I was looking at this, I think 2 weeks ago, I was looking at this and I thought we was breaching this area out to see prices then moving to the downside. However, if you look at the bigger picture thing, you'll see a similar move that's happening currently. So you had this initial move to the upside, you had a push to the downside, inability, price coming back. When you look at this, it's simply a correction. You look at the same thing, it's an impulse. You had this initial attempt, there was an inability for prices to move again to the upside. You had price coming back down. When you look at this, it's also a correction thing. So going off of this structure, you had an impulse, correction, impulse. So you've had the same thing. It's an impulse, it's a correction. So we're expecting another impulsive move to the upside on the DXY. So when I looked at this last week, I pointed this out. So if you look at this space right here, it's an impulse on everything coming to the downside. It's simply a correction. Now, if this is a correction, then we're expecting the DXY to move progressively to the upside. Let's say to an area like this. So you're looking at this channel thing. So you're looking at the channel as a correction. So the channel is just a correction to that impulsive move, and we're expecting the DXY to then move to the upside. Now this is on the monthly time frame, but if you look at this and say, all right, price is playing off of this area. So you're looking at this, that's a pivot point, and you're looking at this as a pivot point. Now once price gets to the pivot point, you should expect a reaction from the buyers to take out these highs. So this area needs to get taken up. Because we're playing with this on the monthly time frame, it's gonna take lots of time for price to move all the way to the upside. But this gives you a bigger picture already. So you're looking at this and you know, let's say 8-10 months from now, you might see the DXY get into that point. Or let's say 6 months from now, you might see the DXY get into that point. So that's what you're looking at on the bigger picture thing. But you can't trade this on the monthly time frame. So if you look at this on the weekly time frame, what is price telling you? So let's look at the correction, and then the two things I'm looking at right here. So you have this counter trend thing, or this channel. So you see this interaction right here. you see this interaction right here, and you see the same thing right here. So if price is playing within this channel, where is price most likely going to gravitate to? Now, looking at it this way, you can bring in now the psychological levels. We're currently trading below this piece right here. We're currently trading below 100, and the next level we can get to is 110. So you bring in the psychological levels, and price is currently trading below 100. So if we get a break, there's a counter trend line right here. If you get a break out of this area, you're waiting for a pullback, and you want to see prices moving all the way to the upside. So that's the take for me on the if you look at the monthly time frame, then you look at the weekly time frame, you have this counter channel to the downside, and price is reacting off of this area. So you're looking at this space right here, you're looking at this space, and you're looking at this. So it gives you the channel. So once you have the channel, it's an impulse, it's a correction, it's an impulse, and you're waiting for a correction again to the upside. So that's it when it comes to the weekly time frame. So another thing you can point out on the weekly time frame is a structure that we're playing with currently. So if you look at this space right here, price is making impulsive moves, and there's a correction, there's an impulse, there's a correction, there's another impulse, and then there's a correction. So you look at this space right here, there's a counter trend line right here, and price keeps reacting from areas like this, areas like this, like this, like this. Now if you get a violation, which I think is going to happen next week, like a proper violation thing, you get a violation out of this area, then you want to see price pulling back to the downside. Hold on. So you get a violation, you want to see price pulling back to the downside to areas like this, and then you're looking for buys to the upside. So that's it. Now when you look at this on the weekly time frame, it ties to what's happening on the monthly time frame. So you move again one time frame lower. Since this is the weekly time frame, let's do the daily and see what's happening. So perfect. Now when you zoom in on the daily time frame, this starts making lots of sense, because you might see the violation coming in better on the daily time frame compared to the weekly. So same thing, the last leg or the final leg from the weekly time frame, which was this impulsive move to the downside, when you started this impulse to the downside, you're looking at this space right here. It's an impulse, then comes a correction. It's an impulse, then comes a correction. You're looking at the same thing. It's an impulse, then comes the correction right here. So going off of this, you're looking at this and you're saying price is giving you this impulse to the downside and the correction, and every time a correction comes in, you have another impulsive move to the downside. Every time a correction comes in, you have another impulsive move to the downside. So looking at this space right here, price is breaking out already. If you want to go off of this piece right here, so price is breaking out of this trend line and it's trading outside. So we might see an impulsive move, say coming into next week, we might see another impulsive move. And after the impulsive move, you're waiting for prices to come back and test this trend line so you can get a push to the upside. So every time you have a break or a violation of a trend line, price tends to test the trend line, and then you see a reaction and then a movement to the, like let's say to the upside if it's in an uptrend, or movement to the downside if it's in a downtrend. So that's what I'm looking on the daily time frame. If you move lower to the 8-hour time frame, now this starts making again lots of sense, because the lower you step, like let's say the more you go to lower time frames, the better the structure looks like on this lower time frame. So we're getting a violation out of this area. So if you compare this piece right here, you had this, so you had price trading outside, that was a push right there. So you're coming off of this impulsive move right here, you have a counter trend. You had a violation of this area, which is something I was looking at as well, but you had price reacting, giving you this impulsive move to the downside. So you might look at the same thing and expect sellers to come in from an area like this. So those are all possibilities. But now the difference with this is, if we have sellers coming in from this area, let's say we get this impulsive movement to an area like this is a clear break of this trend line right here. So if you see something like this happening, then you've had a clear violation of that trend line, of this counter trend line, and you're just expecting prices to come back, testing this area. And once you get a test of that area, then you're expecting a push to the upside. So this is something to pay attention to coming into next week. That's on the 8-hour time frame. Let's see the 4-hour time frame. So on the 4-hour time frame, I have this channel, and again, I use the channels every time just to gauge the direction or to see where price is most likely going to get these rejections and reactions from. So if you're looking at this piece right here, there's a rejection, there's a rejection, there's a rejection. And if this is a channel we're playing with, this piece right here, if this is a channel we're playing with, then there's a high possibility the DXY might move again to an area like this. And once we get to this area, then we could expect those sales to come in, then testing this trend line around an area like this. So it's something you need to pay attention to. Now, depending on how price reacts from next week, there's still a possibility if you see this inability for prices to go through this area, you could see prices dropping again to the downside. So those are all possibilities right there. But you have the bigger picture thing, because if you step back to, let's say, the weekly time frame, and you look at this, on the weekly time frame, you have an impulse correction. So you have an impulse and you have a complex correction thing. So if you look at it this way, and with price reacting off of this area, all you're waiting for is an impulsive break, you get a test, and for price to move again to the upside. So yeah, that's my bias on the DXY coming into next week. So I think with the DXY reacting from this pivot point, we could see the DXY now moving to the upside, let's say 2 months, 3 months and stuff like that. But the good thing about this is every impulse on the DXY comes with a correction. Every impulse comes with a correction, impulse correction. So you can use that same principle and look for trading opportunities on other pairs. But it's very important you understand where the DXY is most likely going to head to and the areas it's going to test. So psychological levels we're looking at right here, 100. Once we come above this area, I think it's clear it will be headed all the way to like 110. So that's my analysis right there on the DXY, and let's see how this aligns with the other pairs. But this is really interesting, like looking at what's happening on the DX right now. It's really interesting compared to last week or compared to 2 weeks ago. Yeah. All right guys, let's look at other pairs. Alright guys, so there's a little modification. So I'm not gonna do indices, I'm not gonna do a forecast on indices, and the reason is because the guys I'm working with in the community, we've just decided to trade gold for a couple of months because they're trying to lock in, stay focused, and just look at one pair and try to understand the setups we're looking at, and without getting distracted with all these other pairs. So because we're not going to look at those indices, we're not trading indices for now. I'm not going to do the market focus on those indices. I'll just go a little bit deeper on gold and the DXY, just put it side by side and break down these two pairs. So that's a little modification thing. And again, if you want to see the focus on other pairs, just let me know, I'll see what to do. There's always something we can do. All right guys, so this is gold on the daily time frame, and this is also very important because when you look at what's happening on the bigger time frame, you know what, let's put this, so let's zoom out a little bit. So look at this space right here. So I was sat here looking at gold, and if you understand what's happening on the DXY currently, and we're looking at the DXY giving us this impulsive move and this massive consolidation thing. So this is what's happening on the DXY right now, something like this. So when you look at this on the DXY is currently geared to move to the upside to an area like this. When you look at gold on the other hand, we're coming off of this impulsive move right here. Let's take this for example, and you can look at this as a consolidation. That's one way. You can also look at this as a pullback thing like this. So now if you look at this as a pullback like this, it's not the best. So let's just say you're looking at it as a consolidation. So price has been consolidating within this area for quite some time. Now what is this telling you? You put the DXY to one side, which is what you're looking at here, and you put gold to this side, which is what you're looking at here. If the DXY is geared to move to the upside, and this massive movement on the DXY, which might even take out these highs, there's a couple concern on gold because you might see this pair actually let's say testing this area of 3500. So we might actually test 3500, but once we get a test of this area, we could see prices coming back to the downside right here. So there's still a little bit, let's say there's still this area we can play with, taking prices to the upside. There's some room for the movement to the upside, but once we get to 3500, which is this minor psychological level, we could see this pair drop into the downside. Now let's put this into perspective again and look at this and see what's actually happening. So on the daily time frame, there's certain things you can look at, and as I think I've mentioned this many times already, when you're looking at an impulse, you're waiting for a correction and for prices to move to the upside, taking out those highs. So same thing with what we're looking at right now. It's been an impulsive move to the upside. We had a correction right here and prices moving to the upside. So normally with this correction right here, we should have taken out these highs. We should have taken out these highs already, but there was an inability for prices to take out those highs, and we stopped right here. Then came in sellers again. Now this gave us another impulsive move, and right here was a correction. So again, we're expecting these highs to get taken out because it's always an impulse correction, and the same thing happens. You get another impulse and you get another correction right here, and you're expecting these highs to get taken out. So I'm going to clean this and make it bigger so we can see. So same principle, it's an impulse correction. You're waiting for prices to take out those highs. Within this structure, it's an impulse, it's a correction. You're waiting for prices to take out these highs. Within this entire structure again, it's an impulse, it's a correction, and we was waiting for prices to take out these highs right here, which we did, and we're currently sat at this point right now. So what is the game plan? Where is price most likely going to gravitate to on gold, and what are the areas where we could face rejections? Now looking at it already, this area was a point of concern for me, because once we got to this area, I was sat here looking at it and I'm like, if we break out of this area impulsively, then we're going to take out this area right here. But if we struggle at an area like this, it could mean a lot coming into next week. So you could see price, you know what, let's put this. So if we struggle around an area like this, if there's an inability for price to go through this area, which is what we're looking at currently, an inability for prices to go through this area, then we're taking out the next area, which is this lows right here. So we could see price coming back, taking this piece out like this. So that's a very big possibility. Now this doesn't mean we're done with the buys on gold, and it doesn't mean we're just moving in the opposite direction. You need to understand the DXY has to give us a violation and then a correction testing that trend line, and once that's happening, if you're getting that movement to the upside on the DXY and you get a push to the downside on gold, it's going to give you the same thing. It's an impulse and everything coming down, it's a correction, and you're looking for prices to move again to the upside. So that's my thought process right there, just looking at it from the daily time frame. And if you step down to lower time frames, for example, let's look at the 8-hour time frame and see what's happening. So here's the impulse we're dealing with, impulse correction. Now that's too big of an impulse correction, so you need something you can play with. Same thing, it's an impulse and it's a correction. Now you step down to the 8-hour time frame, and let's put this into perspective as well. So on this time frame, you're looking at this piece right here. The reason I took the buys on this, you had price giving us that impulse, and there was a correction, and there was an impulse, and as price was correcting within this area, we couldn't take out this trend line. So you had price reacting from this point, and there was just this inability for prices to take out this area. So this was the next area for price to test, and we took the buys, and I think we're currently sat at this point, we're up plus 5% already. Now the intentions, again, looking at this, is for prices to take out 3450, and it might be a little bit difficult just because of what's happening on the DXY. So when you look at the DXY, you look at where prices are currently, there's a high possibility we might be moving to the upside. Now let's look at this. If we break out of this trend line on the weekly time frame on the DXY, we could be testing this area right here, that psychological level of 100. So that's something to pay attention to as well. So back to gold, right here. So look at this rejection around this area. So we had prices come into an area like this, so that was a point of concern for me. So an inability for prices to go through this area, and that's one way you can look at it. So there's a counter trend line from this area. If you see price coming back, taking out this area, giving you a test, then there's a high possibility we're taking out this piece right here. Now if price pulls back to this area, let's make this clean. So you have a counter trend line right here, price pulls back, and you see the movement to the upside, then you're expecting this all the way to 450. So that's what I'm looking at right there on gold, and this is on the 8-hour time frame. If you step down to the 4-hour time frame, now you look at the point of concern for me. Like this area right here was a point of concern, this area right here is a point of concern as well. So those are the areas I'm really expecting rejections, I'm expecting prices to pull back from, or I'm expecting sellers to react from aggressively. And it's very easy to look at it, because if you look at an area like this, for example, this area caused the sales we're looking at to the downside. This area right here caused the sales to the downside. So you always have to pay attention to areas like this, because if price gets to this point and it's like you're giving me the same discount I had before, then there's a high possibility I might decide to sell. If price gets again to this point, there's a high possibility I might decide to sell. All right, cool. So let's put a couple of trend lines and see like the possibilities coming into next week. So we've had an impulse right here, and we've had a correction, and we see price taking out this highs. So how do we anticipate the moves coming into next week? What are the possible moves we could see, and what are the possible trend lines or channels we can play with? Now there's been an impulse right here, and there's been a correction. So just looking at this, you might want to go with something like this simple move and put right here. Now I'll make this bold just so you can look at it. So let's put this on this one right there, and let's do this for this one. Perfect. All right, cool. So as you start breaking down this price action and you're moving down to lower time frames, you're breaking down the price action thing. Now you're looking for possibilities. I've said this already. There's a high possibility if the DXY starts buying on its own stuff. So let's say the DXY starts buying, it's going to be very difficult for us to go through this area right here, and you could see price moving to the downside. And if price starts moving to the downside, we're expecting prices to not just move to this trend line, but we're expecting prices to come back to this area right here, that point of inception. So there's certain ways you can look at it and actually anticipate where that price is most likely going to test. So there's a way you can look at it. So now let's break this down again. So we're going one step at a time. So if there's an inability at this point, so at the same time you want to pay attention to what's happening on the DXY. Let's put this on the 4-hour time frame like this. Perfect. So let's look at this on the 4-hour time frame. So if the DXY keeps buying, we're looking at this piece. I'll just make this bold as well right here. Perfect. So here's a channel we're looking at. I'll take this off the 4-hour time frame. So what is this? Here's on the 4-hour time frame. Let's put this on the hourly. Perfect. So let's focus on this piece right here. So if the DXY keeps respecting the structure, then you're looking at this. It's an impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction. Now this is getting confusing at this point, because you had impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, but for some reason you've had an impulse and you're having this difficulty with price moving to the upside. And that's why I said if the DXY keeps moving to the upside, so if we go through this area right here, then we could see prices testing this piece right here. But an inability for prices to go through this area, let's make it better, an inability for prices to go through this area, then you could see the DXY crashing, taking out this piece right here. So those are areas you could see the DXY testing. Now if something like this happens, then you come back to gold and you're looking at gold right now. If something like that happens on the DXY, where there's that crash on the DXY, that inability for the DXY to move on the 4-hour time frame, then you could see a minor pullback thing on this pair, and you see price continuing its move to an area like this. So that's now the possibility we're looking at on gold. Or you could see a deeper pullback and then price moving again to the upside. So those are all possibilities right there. So depending on how the DXY moves, it's going to give you an idea as to what's going to happen on gold. So I would like looking at it side by side. So looking at the DXY, just asking questions. How is this guy going to move? Is he taking out this area? Because if we take out this area and then we headed to an area like this, but an inability to take out this area, then we're dropping. So if we start dropping, and then you're looking at this piece that's on the 4-hour time frame, you're looking for some pullbacks and you're looking for a continuation to the upside. So that's it right there. Now let's say the DXY keeps moving to the upside. So we have this room to play with. If the DXY keeps moving to the upside, we have something like this to play with. Now, how is this going to translate on the pair we're looking at on gold? How is this going to translate? First things first, you're expecting this guy to start selling, maybe back to an area like this, taking out this area and taking out areas like this. So we mentioned that already. Now let's look at this on the hourly time frame, and the hourly time frame is just for entries, and it's not for doing analysis like that. So if I step down to my hourly time frame and you look at this piece right here, so we're currently sat in this position. So I mentioned this already. Initially, I was expecting prices to get to this point. I'm still expecting prices to get to this point, but I'm very concerned about this area. So we've taken out this area, but when you look at it, it's just a shallow break. We haven't taken this area out impulsively. So I'm very concerned when it comes to this piece right here, this area right here. We've taken out this area, but just a shallow break out of this area. So if you put a counter trend line, I'll take this out. So take it out. Perfect. So if you put a counter trend line right here, put it this way, and you can look at how price is reacting. So this rejection at this point, so the rejection you're seeing at this point, it doesn't mean price is just going to sell impulsively to the downside. This simply means we're having this impulse and we could see a correction back to an area like this. You get a correction and you see price moving again to the upside. However, if we see price breaking out of this trend line right here, it's a counter trend line. If we see price breaking out of this trend line, so you get a push, you see price breaking out, then you're looking for sells. We'll take out this area 1, and we'll take out this area 2. So those will be the sells we'll be looking at coming into next week if we take out that trend line. But if we keep playing within that trend line structure, then we're expecting prices to keep it moving again to the upside. So that's it right there. That's my analysis when it comes to gold, and I think we've gone through all the time frames. So if you look at this on the 4-hour time frame, that's what you're looking at. You look at this on the 8-hour time frame, that's what you're looking at right there. So there's still this question mark, there's difficulty at this point. So I think it's gonna be best, let's say, coming into next week, maybe Monday, Tuesday, just looking at what price does. It might give us a better understanding as to what to do. But for now, you need to pay attention on what's happening on the DXY. How is the DXY going to move from an area like this? Is it going to take out this area? If yes, where is it headed to? It's headed to an area like this. An inability for this to happen, you're looking at this and a break to the downside. So once this starts happening on the DXY, it's going to give you a clear direction on gold. But put this again on the 4-hour time frame. There's a possible movement again for price to an area like this, or you get, let's say, a pullback thing, and then you see a continuation move to the upside. So it just depends. Like right now, I still have my positions in, and I'm just going to hold it a little bit longer and see what happens. So once the market opens next week, I'll decide on what to do, if I want to close the position or if I still want to hold it. Yeah, but for now, I'm not really convinced as to closing it right now. I'll wait and see. Let's see what happens on Monday, and I'll make a decision at that point. All right, guys, so that's my analysis right there. It's not the best analysis for this week because price is shaking right now. But let's see. Once we have more price action, it's going to make it really easy to tell. And yeah, we'll take it from there. All right, guys, make sure you're patient, stay consistent, and above all, pray every time. And I'll see you guys during the next one. Bye for now.